My name is Heather. My name is Heather Bear, and I'm a PhD candidate in applied science at William and Mary. And I'm really excited to introduce to you the Virginia Women in HPC chapter today. We were founded in April 2021, and our chapter brings together a large community across 7 universities in Virginia, including UVA, Virginia Tech, William and Mary, and many others. We currently have about 370 members on our mailing list and have engaged with over 500 unique individuals throughout a variety of events and initiatives. Our main programming includes quarterly virtual presentations featuring invited speakers, including research computing professionals, professors, and administrators discussing topics relevant to HPC activities. Of note, we've hosted NVIDIA's Director of Global Industry Development for Higher Education, who shared insights into the latest HPC applications in the industry. During Cybersecurity Month, Jandria Alexander spoke to us about the importance of diversity in cybersecurity, highlighting the unique challenges women face in the field. We also recently welcomed Scott Yokel, the University Research Computing Officer at Harvard, who also provided advice on career paths in research computing and offered advice on how to navigate the landscape of HPC careers. We've also hosted multiple very popular student lightning talk events where undergraduate and graduate students from Virginia institutions present their research in 3-minute sessions with opportunities to take questions afterwards. Each student presenter is paired with a Virginia Women in HPC member before the event who mentors them through their presentation. These talks are a great opportunity to foster connections between young students and more experienced faculty and staff, and to help engage students in HPC before their graduation. We've also been very active at conferences, representing Virginia at the Virginia Women in Supercomputing booth at Supercomputing, and conducting a workshop at PERC most recently. Of our more lighthearted programming, we hosted an online trivia game last summer, helping to keep members engaged during the long break. The game drew almost 40 participants, and our trivia questions covered a wide range of HPC topics, from early computing history and programming languages to the contributions of women in computing and modern HPC technologies. Finally, I'm excited to share that we are currently in the process of applying to become an official Women in HPC chapter, and our application to that is almost complete. On a final note, we'll be having our next Student Lightning Talk event on November 12th for anyone who would like to join. You can find more information about the event and how to join our mailing list through the QR code on this slide, which should take you to our website. Thank you all for your continued support and participation, and I'll pass it on to the next speaker.
Thank you, Heather. So next up, we have Krista Valladares.
Hi, everyone. It's great to be here today, and it's wonderful to see all of you. I will be representing or speaking about the WHPC Northeast chapter on behalf of myself, the 2 co-chairs, Kaylee Nelson and Paula Sanamatsu, who are both here with us today, and our growing membership. So we are a new chapter. We were established in October 2023. And our focus is really to bring visibility to the HPC career track, raise awareness about the variety of entry points. I think many of us didn't necessarily seek out roles in HPC or its peripheral types of professional areas, but we ended up here somehow. So for those who knew what they wanted and trained for it, and for those of us who came here and stayed, just raising awareness about the different ways to pursue a professional role in this field. We want to function as a peer network for career advice, self-advocacy, and mentoring for women who are either newer to their roles, newer to the workforce, in the transition point of switching roles, or at any kind of point within their career where they're kind of needing that additional support, and then provide chapter members and their local community with programming around specific areas that empower women in HPC roles and bring visibility to the amazing work we're doing. Thanks to Kaylee Nelson's representation at PERC this summer, we have 75 members. We got some great interactions with other institutions who are interested in joining our chapter. So we currently have 75 members. We host monthly meetings, and we do quarterly programming, which is in the form of workshops, or in the future will be planning some invited talks. And then we're looking forward to having networking events at conferences like PERC, which we did in the summer, and then supercomputing, which will be coming up in the fall. And if you have any questions, there will be contact information for our chapter in the later slides, and you can reach out to myself, Kaylee, or Paula as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Krista. Next, we have Paula Sanematsu from Harvard University. Thank you.
I think for now, the next chapter will present it, and Krista did it for the Northeast.
Hi, everybody. I'm Laura Thedman. I'm from Purdue University. So I am the Director of Center Operations and Visualization. So my team handles the communications, outreach, and engagement programs like the Women in HPC, our student program, things like that. Our mission and values and what we're trying to do follows very closely to what, similar to what Krista talked about, just empowering women. We have several women within our group and on our steering committee that came from a very diverse, backgrounds, and not your typical HPC or technical field. They came from HR, healthcare, athletics and training, similar things like that. So we're really just trying to support each other within our organization, across Purdue and across all the other institutions that we work with and collaborate with. Some of the events that we've done over the past year, our chapter started in 2017, and it was actually founded by Gladys Andino, who's now at Virginia, and Marisa Barazil, who is now at Arizona State University. So of course, COVID kind of took a big hit on our chapter and, on a lot of the engagement that we did, but we're starting to ramp up again. We now have 155 members within our chapter. Some of the events that we have been doing, we do some monthly presentations where we ask some invited speakers to come and talk in person as well as virtual. We're going to start doing some quarterly networking events. We had one last week where we had several grad students come and we just kind of had a casual networking session and talk to them and see what their career aspirations and how we can help. We sponsor the Women in HPC at Supercomputing every year. We try to attend a lot of the PERC workshops. And then any student organization events that we can help sponsor and try to support on campus, we take part in that as well. Some of the big things that we do within our chapter is we have travel scholarships. So we do offer travel assistance for students who identify as female so that they can participate in any national conference. Last year, we awarded up to 12 scholarships at $1,000 each. And the other piece that we're trying to build up is a mentor program. And so we're trying to get more mentors joining Women in HPC, as well as students that would like to find a mentor. So trying to have a match program there. So just to help build the future generation of women in not only HPC, but in technical fields and become leaders. So thank you.
Thank you, Laura, and sorry that I didn't realize that Laura was going to speak ahead of Paula and Kaylee, but thank you, Laura Thedman. So is it correct? Am I correct that the next person will be Paula or will it be Kaylee?
I think Krista spoke for the full Northeast chapter, so Paula and I will just be helping out with the next step.
Fantastic, great. So thank you all. So I believe the next part of our event is actually breakout rooms. And like Kaylee mentioned, Kaylee and Paula are gonna help moderate the breakout rooms. And I believe we have 3 breakout rooms. Looks like
we actually have about 6 rooms, and each of the panelists will be facilitating one of the groups. So we each have a topic. So if you bear with us, we can start assigning folks. It'll be at random. And let me just find the right screen now that I'm not sharing. So again, just a quick reminder. Well, first, thank you, Grace, for introducing us all and kicking us off. And if you didn't see, I believe Karsten put a few reminders, and Grace, you may have also, but if you can, add your name and information to the Google Doc that was shared in the Zoom chat. That will help us kind of account for who's here and joining us. And then for the breakout sessions, there are multiple topics. There's the role of mentors and engaging allies, what types of topics and events we're covering or want to cover within our chapters, in terms of identifying gaps in programming efforts and outreach activities and how we can address them moving forward. And then what you would all like to see from the WHPC chapters. And the last ones, there's 5. The last one is current challenges in gender diversity and inclusivity within HPC. And then, so the plan is for a 10-minute breakout session. So it's fairly brief, just kind of a brainstorming. And then we'll come back as a group and have a report out. And kind of an open discussion before wrapping up. So if you, okay, and I'm up first. So I can make this bigger. Can everyone see that with ease?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yes.
I was gonna say, I would love voices because I have very little visibility on my gallery. Wonderful. So I was joined and I didn't catch everyone's name. So if you were in room 1 with me, if you could add your name. I know it was Melissa, Nan, Winona, Katie, and I want to say Ratishmi, if I'm getting that right. So we were talking about what the role of mentors and engaging allies was, and it was a great conversation, partially because we really first got into dissecting what the problem was that we were looking to solve for, which was really about having, chapters that are newer to the WHPC organization and sort of in their infancy, and how to enter this space in a strategic and thoughtful way without it kind of running away from us or doing it in a way that dilutes the other efforts we're trying to move forward. So some of the takeaways that these are our notes, and some of them are in shorthand and incomplete, but some of the takeaways was that to be an ally, like the messaging of we do not need a knight in shining armor seems to be really effective. And sort of the metaphor of rising tides raise all ships. And the notion of a quiet ally came up. Purdue has someone called Jeffrey. We don't know his last name at the moment, but everyone needs a Jeffrey, we learned. And it's someone who shows up and asks great questions, but doesn't have kind of a overly presence, if you will. And then there was another great idea and feedback about a book club that the group read Invisible Women, and then there was a panel on sexism, and it didn't just give it didn't just provide the perspective of women in predominantly male fields, but also the opposite. So the example was a man who's an interior designer, and what he might experience. And the real underpinning of that is inclusivity and how we can support one another. One of the things that came up, or another thing with allyship, is that it's not just about participating as an ally to make oneself feel better. I think sometimes there's a notion that, for lack of a better term, it's a community service, more or less, to support these types of efforts, but it's so much more than that. So making sure that that's clear at the outset. In terms of mentorship, it's a really tough initiative to get right. When it's done well, it works superbly. When it's not, it can be a runaway train, I think was the notion we came away with. And then there's also coaching and sponsorship, which are often coupled with mentoring, but very different. So just to be mindful of that. And that what some of the challenges with mentorship is that mentees don't always know what they're looking for, and mentors aren't always trained or seasoned mentors. So to address that, having like a strong vetting process for past experience for mentors, and then some training or in the mentoring space, and then also making sure the mentees are aware of the expectations as part of participating in that type of professional relationship are key. Toolkits are helpful, and Nan at Stanford made sure that we knew that dedicated resources like this can't be something that is pulled together by people with the best intentions who have who don't even have a few spare hours in a week, but are trying to move it forward. It really requires dedicated effort. Group 1, did I miss anything? See me and shaking your head. Okay, good.
Good job.
Thank you. All right, and then let's see, Laura, can I hand it over to you?
Sure. Thank you. So I put the people that were in my group, Akshita, Jennifer, Adrian, Natasha, and Eric. So some of the things that they mentioned were having, interested in topics that engage, various populations, finding ways, that are more inclusive, whether it's in person or virtual things, and also being able to tie them back to that's not just work related, but being able to tie some of the work related things back to an interpersonal type aspect, and just engaging more in minority serving and underrepresented groups and things like that. So other things discussed were bringing awareness to the larger community, having informational meetings about your resources that you offer within your organization, whether it's computing resources or storage or research, whatever that may be. Mentors that come in and talk about their DEI initiatives, as well as career paths, which we've kind of talked about at the beginning of our meeting today. Doing different types of seminars, having a show and tell type, where grad students can present their work, or group shows, other groups coming in, institutions showcasing their offerings, things like that. Eric mentions having discussions around some factual topics like studying demographics, like women and minorities in various technical fields. And Jennifer shared a link to some information there that I think is really interesting. So hopefully if you want to go out and take a look at that. Also maybe having topics, discussions around funding opportunities. So it's always hard to, where do you find the money to pay for travel scholarships or just the events itself. So maybe having some discussions around some funding opportunities. And then we also talked about, some other things that was important about doing surveys of gauging interest from your attendees of what types of events they would like to see. From the one last week we talked about, a breakfast, networking breakfast, donuts and coffee type thing, a bubble tea social hour, something like that. So different things that you can kind of brainstorm, but gathering that information. Also getting information on the time of day and maybe even the day of the week if possible, because it's always hard to find the time where you can get, as many people to participate as possible. Offering incentives is always good, such as food and beverages. Maybe you can have some sort of raffle, just something, to get people to want to come and participate. And also, Akshita mentioned she's a grad student and she mentioned having shorter meetings because, grad students sit in class and listen to presentations and things all day long. So keeping meetings or the presentation piece shorter, but then doing breakout sections or having time to actually network and just kind of make it a casual type thing. And then some of the challenges could be, finding locations where people can come based on, if there's parking shortages or just where people are working from. So trying to figure out, depending on the type of event that you have, where the location should be and whether it could be a virtual or a hybrid type thing. So lots of great ideas. So I don't know if anybody from the group wants to add anything, or please do. Okay. Turn it over to Haley.
We were group 3. The focus of our conversation was gaps that we see in our programming efforts or outreach activities, and how do we fill them going forward. So we brainstormed some ideas of things that it would be nice to do. There was a suggestion that maybe women in HPC could host a new to HPC workshop. I started calling it the Women Not Yet in HPC. Maybe particularly targeted at students. How do you make it fun and interesting so students are, it's not just sort of yet another lecture that they come and sit in. Maybe there's a model for the multi-institution chapters where it's designed by the chapters, but then, taught by individual chapter members if they want to at their own institution. There's a request for in-person meetups because it's really something different to be able to talk to chapter members in person. But there's a question of like, how do you get funding? And there's a weird logistical challenge of where do you actually put the money, even if you can get it, so that you can then pay out of it. It seems like maybe somebody said that maybe Purdue has figured this out. So maybe the other chapter co-chairs, we can go and ask Purdue what they do. There was an idea that maybe there should be different tracks for certain more focused types of content. So, women in HPC there's many different ways you can be an HPC. You can be a researcher, you can be a sysadmin, you can be a facilitator, you can be a student. And instead of doing really sort of generic content that would be of interest to everybody, how do you have different tracks or different discussion forums for those different types of facings or focuses? Another idea for workshops and outreach efforts centered on students, but these more around sort of career path and not just the mechanics of using HPC, but letting people know that this is an option to be, for example, like an HPC professional. And then we talked a bit about what the membership of our groups, of our chapters were. And other than HPC professionals, it sounded like Purdue has a lot of students and they've attracted them because they have this travel scholarship. And so the students find out about it that way and then join the chapter as a result. And Virginia also has lots of students but also some faculty and researchers in Virginia. And that we've just started to have some researchers in the Northeast. Before that, we were basically exclusively professionals. So it was interesting to hear what type of outreach the different chapters were doing and how that was resulting in different membership.
Great, thank you. And then Paula, topic 4.
Interestingly, a lot of the topics covered by the other groups popped up here too, especially the not yet in HPC was brought up. This is not the first bullet. I just wanted to go over to what other people had said. The HPC is not included in a lot of AI jobs, but no HPC experience. And this happened to me and happened to another member of the group. that, you know, you're a PhD student, a postdoc, how do you get into HPC? How do you find out about it? And us that we are on this side now, how do we advertise to these people that are not yet into HPC, but are using HPC resources, but they don't really know that there is this career option besides going to a postdoc or a research position or faculty position. We also talked about workshops and talks, both technical talks and hand-on workshops, and also from the career standpoint, like how to overcome challenges if you were into the early career, like to how to balance children, two-body problem with when you have a partner that also has a career. We had one of our allies in our group that mentioned that CARC is mapping out some of those careers where people came from and where they're going. And some people offered some resources for for those that are looking into the HPC career but not there yet. And I think that's about it. And if I missed anything, please feel free to add anyone in our group.
Excellent. Thank you, Paula. And then Heather with Breakout Room 5.
Yeah, so Breakout Room 5 had a really great discussion on current challenges in gender diversity and inclusivity within HPC. And our conversation kind of fell into two different tracks, the first being engagement and the second retention. So we started off with engagement and we discussed how much more there is to HPC beyond just, the technical skills that are often advertised in job descriptions and how those job descriptions tend to overcomplicate and over-technicalize the position. Teams in HPC, we talked about how they really benefit from a wide range of skills beyond just technical chops, whether that be business acumen or interpersonal skills or some other non-technical ability. And we talked about how we could better communicate that to potential recruits, particularly those who might maybe feel intimidated by HPC and some of the technical jargon that HPC positions kind of use in their job descriptions, and what types of other diverse skill sets might actually contribute to success in HPC. We mainly discussed how this kind of includes rethinking how we write job descriptions to make them more inclusive, and how we can, better justify years of experience and avoid jargon that might alienate people. And we also talked about the importance of maybe reaching out to and recruiting from other fields, for example, maybe a psychology group or something when recruiting. So we're bringing in fresh perspectives that are valuable to HPC. In the retention discussion, we acknowledge that keeping women in HPC and helping them grow is key to involving more women in the future. If women see women on teams, maybe they'll hopefully come into those teams too. And hopefully maybe they'll write better job descriptions. We talked about how a big part of retention is helping people feel connected to organizations and their colleagues and their job. When people have a strong sense of connection, they're more likely to stay in their position. Susanna, who I believe said she's at Purdue, discussed how she's setting up a retention and mentorship program where mentors can kind of discuss with each other maybe things outside of work, maybe life and all these other things that aren't just job related characteristics, so that they can start to feel more connected to one another, and that way they're more encouraged to stay and won't leave as quickly from their position. I think that kind of wraps up most of our discussion, but if anybody else wanted to kind of provide input from this breakout room 5, feel free to.
Thank you. And for those of you who are left, just a quick, we can do kind of a thumbs up vote, since I wasn't able to keep the poll while I was doing the screen share, but did you like this event? And if so, would you like to see similar events co-hosted in a joint format like this with multiple chapters collaborating? So if you want to do a thumbs up reaction, I'm seeing some nods, but mostly positive response. All right, thank you. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. It's great meeting some new names and faces in the community. Karsten, Grace, any of the other panelists have any parting words?
Well, I posted the links to our 3 chapters in the chat box, so feel free to check us out.
Great. Awesome. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great
Thank